We're just going to wait a couple of minutes to let everyone start to trickle in, and then we'll get started. We're really excited for everyone to be here tonight for this TriQuarterly Books and Magazine collaborative Brooklyn Bookend Festival event. Some of us are here in Brooklyn in person and some of us are virtual, but we are all really excited to be part of the Bookend Festival programming that happens around Sunday's festival, and are especially excited to highlight some of the really great writers that have recently been published or will recently be published on TriQuarterly Books and in the TriQuarterly magazine. And I'm really excited that our MC for tonight is TriQuarterly Magazine's assistant managing editor, Kayla Kumari Upadhyaya. Kayla is a lesbian writer of short fiction, essays, and pop culture criticism living in Orlando, and luckily her lights stayed on for tonight, so she's able to be here with us. She is the managing editor of Autostraddle, in addition to being the assistant managing editor of TriQuarterly. Her queer horror novelette, Helen House, will be published by Borough Press in October 2022, October 18th. So go ahead, you have time to place those pre-orders still. And Kayla is also a former Lambda Literary Fellow. And with that, I'm going to shut up and turn off my camera and turn this over to Kayla.
Thank you so much, Marissa. Yes, I'm very happy that I did not lose power in the hurricane yesterday, so that I could be here. So welcome everyone to a reading evening with TriQuarterly Books and TriQuarterly Magazine. I'm your MC, Kayla Kumari Upadhyaya, and as Marissa mentioned, I am the assistant managing editor of TriQuarterly Magazine, and I'm really excited to be here tonight with all of these incredible writers. Right now, there's a sale going on for the Northwestern University Press poetry titles. You may order your copy of Colonies of Paradise, Oh, You Thought This Was a Date, and Blessed Are the Peacemakers, or any poetry title from TriQuarterly Books and Northwestern University Press at a 30% discount right now. You can use the promo code BKBF30 at checkout to redeem this offer. And the offer is valid from now until October 3rd. And so with that, we are going to get started. Our first reader tonight is Hannah Bonner. Hannah Bonner's poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Bear Review, Pigeon Pages, Rattle, The Hopkins Review, The Pinch Journal, The Vassar Review, Tinderbox Poetry Journal, TriQuarterly, and Two Peach. Her essays have appeared or are forthcoming in The Rumpus, Brightwall Dark Room, Den of Geek, The Essay Daily, and Vita. She is currently a creative nonfiction MFA candidate at the University of Iowa. Give it up for Hannah.
Kayla, thank you so much. And thank you to you and Olivia, Kirsten, Josh, and everyone else who organized this event. I'm really grateful to be here tonight with you all, albeit virtually. I'm going to start by reading the poem that was published in the TriQuarterly Review this summer, and it's entitled Among the Nouns at the Apocalypse. Starlight and empty sidewalks, closed storefronts and cicadas. When did I first define solitude as standing adjacent to objects without touching? The street lamps sputter Luna moths akimbo, a frantic arousal, their rinse of wings. If no one arrives, I'll stay anyways, among the nouns and their qualifiers, breathing into my fleshed fingers, my fragrant hands. In a clemency of wild air, my body bristles like an orchard, cast in color, cleft through with want. This next poem is entitled Somewhere Else. Beer bottles slick my truck bed in their stranglehold as I idle by water in Arkansas. Bats test the thinning air with their velvet tongues. The sun kicks its heels like a federation, like a burning house with all the lights on. From a squint, I can see the day shrug off its slip. Somewhere else, where I should be, there's no dinner wrapped in cellophane, no glass of milk bright white in the dark room, no bed low as a lake for me to dip in, private and damp with your dreams, your odors. The path breathes out its lung of dust, and I am done for. All my life, I've been licked and loping, neck bent like a faucet, angling to be halfway good. The storm. It wasn't that I didn't believe in my own goodness, only that the feeling was fleeting, rising up out of me like a storm, chasing a margin of light. For years, I've walked toward forgiveness beneath these bright eruptions. In time, I'll come to the mountain pass, step through the green door of rain. Another woman. I wait for night to turn over within me. Then another woman walks out of the space where I have been. Like pine in an open window, and the light there lengthening. And the rain, it's heaving, it's pulsing fold, it's blue. And this next poem is entitled Solstice. You lower into me, coil of light. Yes, I say, and this is what I wanted. Circle me once more like a pilgrim. We are darkening through the churning years like solar rings. And the last poem I'll read tonight is entitled Ghost Story. And these are poems that I've been working on for my second poetry manuscript entitled The Ordering of Vision. So again, this is Ghost Story. The river was green, like a white horse under moonlight. The night rose up on its hind legs, silent and warm. The thatched wood house kept a light in every window, and the woman inside circled them, softly as music, shaking rain from her hair. She watched from the window, the world happening without her. The apples fell one by one in the dark, bedding down like roses with the ringing of the dead. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Hannah. Next, we have Mary Jo Bang. Mary Jo Bang is the author of 8 books of poetry, including Elegy Poems, which received the National Book Critics Circle Award, and the translator of Dante's Inferno, illustrated by Henrique Drescher and Purgatorio. She has received a Hodder Fellowship from Princeton University, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and a Berlin Prize Fellowship. She teaches creative writing at Washington University in St. Louis. Welcome, Mary Jo.
Thank you, Kayla, and thank you, Marissa and Olivia and everyone at the press and all of my fellow readers. I'm really honored to be here and especially to be associated with the magazine and the press. And I'm reading translations of poems by the German novelist and poet Matthias Goeritz, and the book is called Colonies of Paradise, and I'll read first the title poem, Colonies of Paradise. The eyes, rivers, and grass, to each one's inclination, the dying off, the dirt, house that bears the imprint of a door, you as a wrapped packet in a word chest, the dear sweet boy, that the off that he owns, and yet gloriously empty of language. You are a real human being, a crow in the airspace. You, little man, are one man. You are a man who disbands and offs your own briefcase by means of black coffee or salt or sunshine. Lunch break, then off. One holds off 2 seconds, then one goes home to a garden, which is different from the year before last. One often stands in front of it, as if still waiting around for something other at last. The book is divided by cities in which Goeritz has spent time, and one of those is Moscow. And now with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, some of these poems seem prescient, especially this one called Morning. Under a canopy sky, a man settles down, a plastic apron on. As the train slips away evenly, a ghost is left back on the tracks. I open the window, glance into the courtyard at the statue of Kirov. The marshal, as usual, is raising his hand. Greetings, people. Hello, hello, fellow Communist Party members. The pigeons shitting on it belong to this land, not to the hand that is hiding the clouds with its greeting. While flies attack a fruit stand and melons spill from a pile and armor-plated bursts flash from the hill here, the sun is rising, and at the other window, there's a sound settling over that land, a new, nearly red sound. It flies in through the window. Throughway. Faces facing one another on the bus, a batch of egos gathered by chance, elemental weather or work hours. Call it a bus, a driving apparatus, or simply a frozen over association. Is that the vague question of the day? How do we see ourselves? Over there, seeable with the naked eye, snow lies. Like road recyclers, the drivers make tracks, which then, as they leave one realm, appear in another, then in the nearest next. We, the snow's honored guests, touch down here at a stop in the east, in a quarter precinct that stands for the whole, denizens of a diminutive continent, robbed of our breath by riding on a bus or at the hands of the cold. Just this once we see how it is to be arriving as one in a crowd, through the eyes of the same, through the eyes of the others. My head expands. I've looked too deeply into the glass, which works like a telescope. The tadpole head is held up by the cockroach at the stove's edge. She peers at me as she drags her pregnant belly into the icebox underworld. So, I say, when the door bursts open, I see inside is also winter. What am I missing? I have a place, a bit of money, and a window. My elongated brain drives through the day, equipped with my eye, outfitted in my body, addressed by me. It gathers impressions. Where is it going? The transport mediums are the modes of transport, feet, legs, auto, and bus. Every day I see people vanish through the subway entrance, that atom smasher for the human masses. Sometimes I'm also in there, always coming in, late even faster, to the job, to the agreed upon date, back to the desk. I can hardly bear to say so, but sometimes I think it's all a game my mind made up. I've looked too deeply into the glass. It's all crystal clear. You don't go up against the day. I've made a place for myself, a bit of money, and take a stand at the window. Outside goes on, traffic flow, life flow, nightfall, the entrances and exits, the whole theatrical to-do. And this is the last poem I'll read. In the casing of time, it's incredibly deep. People sleep inside the downpour machine. Noises from the insides of time, from the organ works, elongated tones emerge. The outstanding radial tire tracks, traffic circles carried on from the morning. The colors are commutable. The driver's license names get slipped into the morning from that sleep, like a pneumatic tube into the city's bloodstream. Go with the flow or keep sleeping. Gray are the innards of the ticker. Timeless and deep lies its meat in the casing of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Nadalyn Gwendolyn Ismatu Bangura. Nadalyn Gwendolyn Ismatu Bangura understands they have a very long name. They feel quite certain you can sound it out. Colorado raised and Chicago based, Ismatu spends most of their days drinking tea and lovingly wishing the city was quieter. In addition to their first chapbook publication, they write extensively on the many conditions of love and the sticky nature of human connection. It thoroughly delights them to share with their online audiences. They have many fans, but none quite as big as their sister and their cat, Lemon. You can find Ismatu at ismatu.gwendolyn across all socials. Welcome.
Hello. Of course, like everyone, I'd like to thank TriQuarterly for having me on, as well as Brooklyn Book Fest for hosting me. I'm very sorry if there's background noise. I live with a large family and you can't tell Africans anything about their news circuits. So we're all going to have to deal with it a little bit. I'm going to be reading from my chapbook called Upline. It was recently published by TriQuarterly magazine, and it is the result of my senior thesis from doing research in Sierra Leone. I do want to just give a little bit of context because it's a very specific work of poetry that I did 2 years of ethnographic research in Sierra Leone on the Ebola crisis from 2014 to 2016. I'm myself from Sierra Leone, and my family immigrated to escape the war and some other stuff. And I was able to talk with not just people that had survived Ebola, but people that were assisting the country in recovering from this crisis. So health professionals such as doctors, nurses, pharmacists, et cetera, that put their lives and their livelihood on the line to be able to provide care to their counterparts when it was quite difficult to do so. And so the poem that I would like to read is 3 parts, and it I wanted to give context because there is a trigger warning for lots of death, dying due to infectious disease. We have been dealing and continue to deal with COVID in the United States. So I really just wanted to say I'm going to talk about quarantine. I'm going to talk about death, mass death. And so if you're someone that might be affected by that, I totally understand if you sit this part out. But how to say quarantine in Creole. Part 1, Komode. In Bo, I ask him, so what all do you remember about the crisis? He says, families, like mom, dad, sister, brother, whole villages, whole people extinct. That was the devastation. I touched a disease that dissolved a person from the inside out, dissolved people's contact and trust with one another, dissolved vision. It left everyone blind. Sight, the needs from those afflicted, the compassion from the witnesses, gone. the way no one wants to come near them, you would think that they, survivors, might have rather dissolved too. My nearest family did not want to touch my body. They said komode, as if that was my name. My name. Part 2, 2 years after the outbreak. You are sitting outside your Uncle Desmond's shop, smiling nicely so Desiree will give you a cup of her ginger beer, idly bouncing her baby on your hip, letting the boy who will learn to be your uncle's messenger twirl your ring around her finger, asking him gently not to put his sister's candy in his mouth, even though you know it is harmless. Your vision tunnels to that same page boy who reaches out about to pet a street dog, and you shout at him, komode. Verb, komode, to get away from a place of danger. Direction to evade immediate and imminent threat, always given in the command form. Get away from that stray before he bites. Now, with the children who work happily on the lollipops your mother brought, you see how they learn slowly about things that are never to be touched. The space between person to person is filled with only what's small enough to fit, like sunlight or stardust. Part 3, the grape. So then say it fast, quarantine. See how it's as vast as the still air around the lonely roundabouts? No matter how quiet you whisper, the space reverberates. Say the word again, quarantine. Note how similar it is to mouthing necessity, tragedy, remedy. Fold your lips slow around each syllable as your mouth bends to hold the vowels like an unpopped grape. Chew on it while you pass Waterloo. Swallow when you wonder who was buried without a tongue to curl around their name. You can see the letters, quarantine, floating through the wet atmosphere, but you have to watch close, close. They are small, but present, in the way a mother says Oshia standing straight up, instead of bending to wipe her child's tears with her own hands. There are a couple footnotes on this poem that I have to read because you can't see them. One is for the definition of Osha, which is a Creole word. When I was little, I was convinced that skin knees, head colds, hangnails, and heartaches do not heal until your mother bends her head to yours and holds you and kisses you, saying, Osha, Osha. If I could take this from you, I would. I'm going to read one more poem. And these are from interviewing Ebola survivors. Ebola survivors often would be infected with their whole families because Ebola was an incredibly infectious disease. So this is Portrait of a Woman with a Loose Tight Skirt. Slouching, nearly against the wall, hands folded in her lap, head nodded to the front and angled to her side so her glasses don't slide from the bridge of her nose. The image in my mind's eye captured in this way because she was showing me the posture her daughter asked for the night she slipped away. Mom, please, sit me upright. Mom, please, please. My hands, place them in my lap, cross my ankles, move me to be against the wall. Mom, please, I want to be comfortable. Please, Mom, please. This was the second week in a row the nurses were scared to touch them. The third night in a row the nurses did not come. The night which took her with a sudden peace, with her eyes still partly open as if she had almost fallen asleep. Interviewer's notes. Her interview name is Cisse, and she is the chairwoman of the Ebola Survivors Association offices in Kenema. She and her daughter were infected so early, before the 3-day lockdown, before the government cared to address the severity of the disease, before health professionals were equipped with proper equipment, nurses were afraid to touch them. Everyone was afraid to touch them. They often had to stand to retrieve their food, their water, their medicine. If you could not stand and walk to get those things, and your nurse refused to bring it to you, then you died. So she and her daughter were in their beds in the afternoon. I know I said it was the night, but I want to get this right. It was, I believe, the daylight when she passed. I couldn't bring myself to take notes during this part of her interview because I had to lean so close to hear her. She was just below a whisper, mouthing to me her daughter's departing words, recounting to me how the first time that the nurses had placed their hands on her body for weeks was to pry her away from cradling her daughter's vacant, contagious frame. That's all. I think that's all, unless I have time for one more. And all right, I can read one more. I still have the time to. I will read the epilogue. It's nice and short, or rather the bus, which is the last poem in the series. And this is when I was coming back down to Freetown to see my family after I had done the interviews. It's called The Bus Part 2. It was the rolling green and the lean, breathing chickens, casually plopped into plastic bags, and the teeny fingers curled around my wrapped skirt from a child who I'd never met before, skeptical 10 minutes ago, now calls me auntie. It was the ride back down to town. No matter how early the bus leaves, it takes all day. It was another woman's son on my lap, and the easy knowledge that the person he calls Ma is not his mother. So maybe I am sweet enough to offer him a part of my seat because he is a stranger in his own family. And with the English pigment on my own Creole, so am I. Thank you. Also, very quickly, my last name is Bangura, Nadalyn Bangura. I know it's a little difficult, but you did a great job sounding it out.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Brionne Janae. Brionne Janae is the author of After Jubilee. Their poetry has appeared in Plowshares, American Poetry Review, the Academy of American Poets Poem a Day, Jubilat, the Rumpus, the Los Angeles Review, and Waxwing, among other publications. Welcome.
Hi. It's good to be here with you guys. So I'm going to read some poems from my second book, Blessed Are the Peacemakers. Thank you so much to the folks at TriQuarterly and University of Northwestern Press for bringing me here. And I'm going to read a few self-portraits, which are run throughout the book. Self-portrait with a line from Black Panther. And it has an epigraph. Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage. When I am more channel than full stop, more conduit than opening, both waif and water witch. When I have been hollowed and struck, been the gazelle killed and resurrected as drum, my skin pulled taut across brittle bones, and the rage of my mothers and my mother's mothers sounding with each blow, my flesh rotting quietly from the inside out. When I have been both instrument and tune and learned grief, how it can work its fingers along the chords of a throat and split the sky in song, an invitation to the spirits to draw near. When I have walked alone in the surf, the Atlantic a dark dancing mass before me, the waves extending to kiss my ankles, my feet sinking deeper and deeper into the sand, the free people of that sunken city reaching out to answer, to pull me closer, to call me home. When I am just a child of ancestors, of the drowned, of the voyage from hell into hell, when there is nothing left but to wade into the water, troubles rolling from my skin to salt the sea, the wind shaking my hair, the setting sun in my teeth, a warm and gentle farewell. The next one is self-portrait as autophobe. And autophobia is a specific phobia of isolation or of being alone. It can also be an irrational fear of oneself, which, while groundless, can feel quite intense. So, self-portrait as autophobe. Tonight, embrace the certainty of destruction. Settle into it as you would into a good lover. Greet your demons. Do not ask how they came to be drawn along the curve of your eyelids like illustrations on a fan. Name them after yourself. Weakling, bitch, ungrateful, unlovable, cunt. Catalog the ways to be broken, the soft in the bone, the sizzle of hair before the heat of a fire, the blood's inclination to run, the gentleness of your spine and your neck's refusal to give. Imagine your body bereft of yourself, the chill, the inevitable decay. It is as natural as the desire for flight, except possible. Divorce madness from insanity, grip your ribs, hold together, fall apart. Divide yourselves into as many as you may need. Turn inward and remember, I am you too, and I ain't going. Oh no, girl, it's just you and me. The next one's called Self-Portrait with Hope Buried but Still Breathing. By now, you have forgotten the person you were, learning to draw the needle through flesh, to cut, rebind, and fashion the body into a mausoleum, and cleave the delicate from the firm, to seal the foolish hope within. Now there is only the familiar work at erasure and the animal sense, hair stiffening at your neck, a ringing in your third ear, feral screams of the freshly tombed girl, the pain remembered as the body reimagines the limb lost and the losing too, its phantom fist clenching and releasing like a prayer to will the mind from itself, prayer to refuse being broken. Only on your most precarious days, when you can be swayed by what the body will never unremember, when you are choosing to remain and can recall the wound without living it. Only then will you press gently against the seams, loosen the stitches to hear hope, O foolish girl, stroking your boundaries, ageless, and singing still. And I'll read one more poem. I think I'll read Naked Pizza Friday, which is a real story. All right, Naked Pizza Friday. Like buoys bobbing in the harbor, the limp cocks dangled between over-pasty thighs, and the breast of the women swayed too. Droll sea of nakedness, lolling and cloaked in evergreens and drooping tree branches, lit with a loosely hanging rainbow of party lamps. How did you get here? Schlepping up Berkeley Hills, your friend clucking at the sluttiness of girls flocking like fucking geese in hoe shoes, then stepping onto the patio past the veil into Eden, and the sudden pink of nipples hard and staring. You had only heard free and pizza and Friday and are wholly unprepared for this transition into pre-falling grace. Virginal in your long white skirt, you fidgeted with a few clothed folk on the periphery. Not for years after would you chuckle and wish you had gone naked too. Not till that frigid city where you learned to dance and throw your hips around recklessly and with purpose, to arch your back, lift your breast and twirl. Not till you learned we are bodies first, animals moving from ecstasy to ecstasy, and the only way to the spirit is flesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Meg Fernandes. Meg Fernandes is a writer living in New York City. Fernandes has published in The New Yorker, The American Poetry Review, Plowshares, among others. Her most recent book of poetry, Good Boys, was published with Tin House Books in 2020, and her forthcoming collection, I Do Everything I'm Told, will also be published by Tin House Books in summer 2023. Fernandes is an associate professor of English and the writer in residence at Lafayette College. She is a Yaddo Fellow and holds a PhD in English from the University of California and an MFA in poetry from Boston University. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the organizers and also the other readers. This has been such a nice end of my day after teaching. I'm going to read you a few poems, and they're all from the new book. So a lot of these I haven't read before, a few I have, but I thought, why not? Not like it's being recorded, just kidding. So this poem is called Do You Sell Dignity Here? And it's a poem for anyone who has ever gotten their heart dragged, which is probably everyone. Do you sell dignity here? Do you know what aisle they sell dignity? I say to the store clerk on University Avenue. It is a cold October. Frank Ocean's Moon River croons in my head, and earlier that day I lay flat in the bathtub like a wild infant, shower pouring, thinking of that Dickinson poem where she says, a bomb upon the ceiling is an improving thing. Steam gathering in celestial curls, and I imagine bombs fizzing out gas and me radioactive with love. At the grocery store, I ask where they sell dignity, and when the clerk says, sorry, what'd you say? I explain that I'm looking for dignity, having lost so much in the last year, and was wondering if it was neatly placed by the baking powder, perhaps refrigerated with the perishables given its fragile shelf life. And yes, I really did ask this partly because I was being funny and trying to make a friend, but also I would have taken a hug or any acknowledgement that I am a person who can laugh at myself despite walking with that odd angle of defeat. Children have no dignity, and I really admire that about them. I love their ruthless response to injustices, their desire to feed birds in the park, to grieve the sea, their right to be tired in public. Do you sell dignity here? I ask one last time and then tell them how it went down, how I had lost mine in Bushwick, of all places, near a building covered in glass and white girl gentrifiers having their white girl epiphanies, such bad coming of age trash. Jesus, all my parents' sacrifices for this, for what? Is this why I came here from Africa? They would say over my flat body, hopefully in the shape of a shrug. I am undignified. I prey on fluorescent light. I enter through the automatic door of grocery stores with royal glide, feetless into an even white. I greet peaches and body cauliflower, nod to the pink packets of sweeteners and wrapped meat thighs. I am drawn to the milks and oblong fruit, dent a red Campbell can of soup. I want everything as cheap and damaged as this feeling. When they go low, we go high, a president's wife said. I go low some days. I go so low you cannot tell me from the animals we sell, from the hard grain my body has become. So I'm gonna read a poem that came out in TriQuarterly. It's a great middle-aged poem. It's called How to Have Sex in Your 30s or 40s. So it's also didactic. She does a lot. How to have sex in your 30s or 40s. Only way to fuck is like you're stalling the body's departure from doing what bodies will do. End. Call it back from its route to extinction. Tether it to its own underbelly, the land of living. Speak its basement desire. If you can do that, well, then you've done a thing. Young sex misunderstands metaphor. To the young, the dying of the light is mere abstraction. Light is not light. It means anything else. But bodies that have beget bodies, bodies that have buried the bodies that made them, bodies that have buried the bodies they have beget, they know what multiplies and disappears. They know what light means. I fuck like a last request, like I'm saying, maybe reconsider your departure. I make you feel like we have a choice in all this, which is the real romance, this witnessing, this rally against your finitude when you're too tired for the front line. Okay. God, I haven't read a lot of these. This is called Orlando. I wrote this like, I think right after the Roe v. Wade decision. Orlando. The few weeks I was pregnant, whenever people asked, "How are you, Meg?" I'd answer, "Oh, you know, with child," which I thought was dead funny. I don't think about it now, except sometimes in a fitness class surrounded by women trying to shed baby weight, and I make the calculations he'd be about 14 by now. And then I look at myself in the class mirror while women squat and lift their legs and think, wow, I look so good for having a 14-year-old. And then I think again how if he was a reality, I'd say it all the time and embarrass him in front of his school friends. And for some reason, I think he'd be a drummer and wear green. I have no regrets. But I wonder if he's waiting in the sky somewhere or doing blow in another dimension where he's a rocker and very much flesh. I don't believe in kin by blood, but I believe poems can give form to the formless, that they can resurrect roads not taken in a line and give it a name. It's a novel by Virginia Woolf, I'd say, and rattle on, and he'd wave me off, but maybe read it one day in college and think about his young mother who wanted to be a writer and what she might have had to give up in order to raise him at 23. He'd write me a song, I think. He'd title it with my name. Okay, I think I'm gonna read 2 more poems. This is called Semiotics. It's a fancy name for a very down-to-earth poem, I think, Semiotics. I went to the Rockaways to look for dolphins, saw 3, and assigned each of them a meaning. I called it a sign. This is what I do. Find a noun, usually an animal, and give it an intervention in my life. And if there's a sudden rain, even better. I don't believe in coincidences when the sea and the sky talk in tandem. That's fate. Last year, instead of going to rehab, my friend booked a trip to the Maldives and asked me to join him. He put the whole thing on his credit card and did it the minute we got home from Presbyterian on 77th with an orange ID bracelet still spun on his wrist like the Wonder Wheel. What should I say to him? That I admire his audacity to be ill? That he knows to be ill is natural given the state of the world, and how is everyone not ill, not overdosing on the night because the nukes are coming? Our optimism is not enough to make it not so. Our optimism is all we have. Well, that and beauty. He always says this to me, Megan, beauty doesn't need a metaphor. He asks if I will stop him. I shrug. Only he knows what can save us. In any ways, the interventions I believe in are not earthly. I mean, he's got Coney Island on his wrist. One must look for signs to believe in them. And I'm gonna read one more poem. Let's see, it's a really short poem and it's called The Trial. Let me begin with my vices, which are too many to name and not as salacious as they used to be. I sit with 3 bouquets of birthday flowers to see which one dies first, and then scrutinize the lover who must be voted off. Who does this? How boring to accumulate love only to test it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our last reader for the evening is C. Russell Price. C. Russell Price is originally from Glade Spring, Virginia, but now lives in Chicago. They are a Lambda Fellow in Poetry, a Ragdale Fellow, a Windy City Times 30 Under 30 honoree, an essayist, and a poet. They are the author of a chapbook, Tonight We Fuck the Trailer Park Out of Each Other. Their debut collection, Oh, You Thought This Was a Date? Apocalypse Poems, was published in June by Northwestern University Press. They currently serve on the curatorial board for the Ragdale Foundation and as a member of the editorial collective for the Anarchist Review of Books. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. One second. So thank you, Olivia, Kirsten, and my other baddies at Northwestern Press, Marissa included. I'm really excited to be here. I miss Brooklyn. I miss the bodegas. I miss the bearded men. Let's get started. Armageddon origin story. Someone is getting molested in the lake house. The man next door is mowing the lawn. Still, the flowers are blooming. The blotch growing day by day. Floods not the answer. People just float. Sorry, this lighting is atrocious. There we go. And when they say hustling, they don't mean dicking down a stranger. It is impossible to walk away from a man with a car and cocaine. This escort loves your library. I ask you if you're going to murder me. You laugh. I laugh. I always think that John might murder me. Cruising always feels like on the edge of Armageddon. Have you ever considered how much emotion is buried in a 7-Eleven parking lot? Maybe it's my sickness talking again. I know my borderline is in control when I could fuck the wallet that called me pretty. When the wallet says, take me, as he's pushing my head down, I hear 7 trumpets in the bass beat blasting through my portable speaker. I won't make love without music. I have to keep count. An hour is only an hour. I've made a commodity out of my coping mechanisms. How strange. I haven't swallowed myself for what was done to me that I can't undo. I am simple in the Anthropocene. I want to fight and I want to fuck and I got to make money. I like the people the most. I don't have to love all the time. My greedy therapist must love what a treasure chest I am. I make everyone come like honey in a Texas drought. All your neighbors can tell by your yell that I spell my name with a double S and a double L. If you want me to cry in the middle of it, say so. My depression is a stubborn Pisces, and I am your hunger god, and I make you feel special. Work is work is work is work. Remind me my name. I'm calling myself tonight. Tonight, no one's getting murdered. This one's called Double Fisting at a Gay Sex Club because a man is buying me drinks so he can watch me pee and I'm thinking of you. Thank you again for having me. If you have it, take a sip. I am not slowed. I brought that protection and I know my power. I found a beautiful song I cannot show you now. I came in here the only girl in the world wearing nothing but my sad like a harness, a mirror ball, a spit shine, a flash glare. He licks my retreat. Someone left the back door unlocked. Someone let themselves inside. The men I love are balding like volcanoes, collapses of coarseness and color. In my heart, I built a scrap paper mill to you. I am lonely, even here, full of self-confidence and pills. We open our chainsaw mouths. We go back home to touch ourselves alone. You used to ask about my day. And then my last poem, which is a little bit of a long one. So my doomsday book is, of course, about the doomsday. And so if you work on it for a while, for like 6 years, if you obsess, you get bored. After growing bored with synonyms for the apocalypse, I rename it Carl, a man with intricate tattoos, a large penis, and a coupe de ville. This is a litany. If you get tired, I am tired. Thank you again for having me. Carl misses the interruption of commercials. Carl didn't know about the cover, forgot cash, but swears he'll get you next time. Carl uses the word kitsch and quirky too often and incorrectly. Carl kisses with his eyes open and his hands begging for something he feels entitled to. Carl's a shitty tipper and a reckless driver. He prescribes to positive self-talk. Carl dead names without hesitation or worry of recourse. Carl lately has a lot of thoughts about abortion. Carl is a troubled man who doesn't do therapy because he doesn't believe in it. Carl likes chairs backless and gender binary. Carl awaits a tropical storm named just after him. Carl says there's a racist in his family, but he doesn't tell you it's him. Carl is no facts, no femmes. 2022, Carl still calls things so gay. After gay sex, Carl says, "Did you hear that?" Even though you both knew there wasn't a sound, he just likes to look at you, all up in a panic like that. Carl mumbles, so you have to say what so he can hear himself twice. Carl is definitely married and works in visual merchandising, but doesn't say exactly where because you have a history of just showing the fuck up. Carl wants us to give veganism a go and uses the word team too much. Carl says, it has recently come to my attention as if a fact did not exist due to his unknowing of it. Carl is above all else a troubled man, undeserving of my attention, but the sex is good even though he wears hoodies in the middle of August. Carl never reciprocates oral sex and admits he might have some issues and looks to you for confirmation. Oh, Carl. Carl says he's superstitious of black cats, but really it's because he's racist and still uses the word urban. Carl loves licorice. Carl believes in trans rights, but has a genital preference. Carl sings along real loud to the hard art parts. Carl loves sleet. Carl and cancel culture are in heat. Carl hands you a dirty washcloth from under the bed. Carl is always almost there or on his way in perpetuity. Carl is man over party except in the voting booth. Carl has infringed rights and a repulsion towards collective accountability. Carl loves a him undoing itself. Carl breaks things in his garage with the door open. Carl doesn't do social media, but has accounts to keep tabs. Carl at his absolute best is 2 p.m. on a Tuesday in February. Carl can and will get a gun. Carl is body positive except for scarred fat faggot bodies. Carl says secret too easily, like he has a lot of them. Carl said, I'm sorry, once and only once, because it was a bleak winter day when he was 11 and he'd say he'd never say it again because a woman made him do it. Carl is one bad day away from becoming the harbinger of breaking news. Carl goes on long drives. Carl goes on long drives at night behind a bug graveyard windshield and sunglasses, Hall & Oates, a few cracked beers, windows down. Carl drives slower the shorter the skirt. Carl just needs a minute of your time, sweetie. Carl's a gentleman after all. He opens the child-safe door for you. Carl gets too close, then closer. His beard wax glimmering, you know not to. Carl licks his stash roof. Carl looks at you, looking at him as he locks the child-safe doors. Thank you again. Love from Chicago.
Thank you so much. That concludes our reading for the evening. Again, I'm so glad I didn't lose power in the hurricane and could be here with you all tonight because it almost didn't happen. Thank you so much to all of our incredible poets, to Northwestern University Press, TriQuarterly Books and TriQuarterly Magazine, to Brooklyn Book Festival, and to all of you in the audience. Don't forget to use that code BKBF30 to get 30% off all poetry titles from Northwestern University Press. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Marissa to close us out.
I'm going to unmute myself and then quickly say thank you to all of our readers and to everyone in the audience tonight. And a big thank you to Kayla for shepherding us through these brilliant readings. I never regret spending an hour on a Thursday or Friday evening listening to poets read. And I think she has already left, but I want to share that we had a special NUP poet in the audience listening tonight, Patricia Smith. So you have all now been watched and listened to by Patricia Smith, and we're excited for her new book coming out next spring. So if you will be in Brooklyn this Sunday at the festival, please come by the Northwestern University Press table, 434. If not, you have that code from Kayla and you can go check out the books online. Thank you again and have a great rest of your evening.